Legislators are working overtime at the Capitol tonight. They're approaching a crucial deadline that could spell success or failure for dozens of measures this session. We'll bring you a live report from our team under the Gold Dome. Plus, we'll talk live to key lawmakers about the bills that are getting thumbs up or thumbs down. Lawmakers starts right now. Good evening and welcome to the crossover day edition of Lawmakers. I'm Bill Nigut. It's day 30 and the heat is on for a lot of bills to jump key hurdles before the gavel comes down tonight. We're hoping that no one down there has a case of paraskevidecatryphobia. Oh, you don't know what that is? It's a fear of Friday the 13th. So what bills have made it so far and which ones are still hanging on? Pat St. Clair is at the Capitol with the latest. Pat?
Good evening, Bill. The Senate is in recess, but the House is still in session tonight, trying to make the crossover deadline. But we began with a possible compromise on medical marijuana, one of the most talked about issues under the Gold Dome this session. The debate full of passion and emotion. There's the House bill approved last month, cheered by families with children who suffer from seizure disorders and people who suffer from 8 other conditions, including Lou Gehrig's disease and sickle cell anemia. And then there is the dramatically different Senate Bill 185, passed today, that would only treat children with seizures in a clinical trial overseen by the Food and Drug Administration. However, after today's debate in the Senate, those families and others have reason to hope that they'll get what they want. Senator Lindsey Tippins is the sponsor of SB 185.
But my intent in bringing this bill is I want a pathway that's legal, both federal and state, to meet the needs of our children who have medication-resistant seizures. And as we try to meet the medical needs of our children, we must guarantee the quality, safety, and efficacy of the medical treatment for all children in the state of Georgia.
But Senator Curt Thompson was highly critical of the bill. He sponsored bills to legalize both recreational and medical marijuana. He chastised those who supported SB 185, saying it doesn't go far enough to help the thousands of Georgians who need the relief medical marijuana could give them.
What this bill is doing is putting window dressing on something when what we should have been doing is addressing what HB 1 does. And I know that folks can nod their head and shake their head and roll their eyes, but they're just wrong. They're just wrong. We ought to be doing something to make sure that folks have access to this medical treatment in a format that they can have access to, that will treat their illness, and in a way that they will not be jeopardizing themselves of committing a felony crossing state lines, where they don't have to be lucky enough to get into a study.
Ironically, it was Senator Renee Unterman who served as peacemaker today. Last year, she, in effect, killed efforts to pass a medical marijuana bill, but today she pledged to work to reconcile the Senate and the House bills.
What we're trying to do again is to combine these two bills, and all I'm asking from the Senate today is to please pass this bill as written. You absolutely have my commitment working with the senator from Cobb County to come up with an agreement, and working with the representative from Macon to come up to something. Our goal is to have a bill at the end of the session. I feel 100% confident that we are going to achieve and accomplish that goal.
Unterman, who chairs the Senate Health and Human Services Committee, has called a hearing for next Thursday to begin the work of combining the two medical marijuana bills. Brewers are one step closer to being able to sell their craft beers directly to consumers. This morning, the Senate passed SB 63, which would allow craft brewers to sell their beverages to consumers who tour the brewery. Consumers can also have a sample of the alcoholic beverages during the tour. Senator Hunter Hill presented the bill.
Senate Bill 63 is about jobs and free markets and competitiveness in a burgeoning industry in which we are currently not able to reach our full potential. As you will see on your desks, Georgia is currently one of 5 states in the country that does not allow brewers to sell their product directly to the consumer. Even worse, all of our surrounding states are allowed to sell their product for on-site and off-site consumption, except Alabama. which can only do on-site. So we are currently even behind Alabama.
The bill passed 51-5. It now goes to the House. A bill to allow for the creation of the city of Stonecrest in South DeKalb was tabled today in the Senate, but SB 208 is not dead because it is a local bill, which means it is not bound by the crossover deadline. The bill can still come up later in the session. Over in the House today, the first step has been taken to let voters decide if they want to form the city of South Fulton. But there was opposition from those who say there are South Fulton residents who would rather live in Atlanta. The bill was sponsored by Representative Robert Bruce, who says this day was a long time coming.
I'm here to ask that you give the residents of South Fulton County the opportunity to decide whether they would like to be incorporated or not. We've worked on this for a long time, and the Georgia State University has done the study, the feasibility study, and determined that this would be a very viable city.
And there are people who are very close to the boundaries of Atlanta who, rather than being part of the city of South Fulton, would prefer to be annexed into the city of Atlanta.
Since 2007, the opportunity for the city of Atlanta or any other city in South Fulton to annex any areas that they felt were interested in being a part of those cities were available. The city of Atlanta has not taken advantage of that opportunity.
The bill for the creation of the city of South Fulton passed on a vote of 148 to 21, and it moves on to the Senate. Also today in the House, a bill to end cyberbullying in Georgia schools. It makes it illegal for students to harass other students by using cell phones, computers, or other wireless devices. The bill was authored by Representative Pam Dickerson.
There's been a survey that shows that 25% of our students are bullied at some point in time in their lives. Georgia is one of 32 states without specific laws against cyberbullying. What this bill does is it only adds cyberbullying to the existing code. It does nothing else but add cyberbullying to the existing code.
The bill, HB 131, passed on a vote of 140 to 26. It now goes over to the Senate for consideration. Other bills passing today, SB 130 in the Senate, which would make it illegal for adults to smoke in their cars while children under 15 are passengers. The Senate also passed a resolution to honor R&B singer Gladys Knight by naming a highway after her. Bill, there's still a lot going on over in the House. We will keep you updated, but for now, back to you.
Pat, great job keeping a track of so many pieces of legislation for us. Thanks a lot. We do have a lot to keep track of on this busy Friday night. I'm very happy to be joined here in the studio by two of our favorite colleagues. Howard Franklin, who is a Democratic political consultant, also the editor of a daily blog about politics, 10 by 10. And Leo Smith, the director of minority engagement for the Georgia Republican Party as well. Thank you both for being here. Here's what we're going to do. We have Senator Steve Henson. Well, no, I'm being told Steve's not ready. So let's start the ball rolling here. Howard, it was interesting today that Renee Unterman came to the well and said, I'm ready to work out a deal on medical marijuana. The Senate version that passed today is only one condition, and that's seizure disorder in children. Alan Peaks has 9. They've got to come to an agreement. The fact that Renee Unterman said, I'm ready to make this happen in the best way I can is a hopeful sign?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's what this is all about. I think there's been a huge spirit of compromise at the General Assembly this year. And I think, there's been some very effective lobbying of the lawmakers with some of the children with epilepsy and other disorders, and so they don't want to lose out on this momentum, and they want to pass something this year.
Leo, Virginia Galloway of the Faith and Freedom Coalition, Ralph Reed's organization, was on Political Rewind radio show this afternoon. She is adamantly against medical marijuana. She thinks it's a gateway to full legalization, and that's dangerous. Do you think that the people who support that conservative approach to medical marijuana are going to have much sway in these final days down there, or is this pretty much going to be a done deal?
Well, I think the version that we're looking at that Senator Unterman is holding is the conservatives' position on that it medical only and that with lots of caution. I think somewhere in the middle the two will meet, and that's what these two versions are going to be all about. And I think that most conservatives will probably say somewhere in the middle the two should meet.
Okay.
So I think Virginia, she takes the position. Virginia's a great friend of mine. I think that she takes the position that is consistent with the organizations that she represents.
Okay, thanks. Senator Steve Henson, the minority leader, the Democratic minority leader of the state Senate, is with us right now. Senator, thanks so much for staying and talking to us.
Thank you very much. Enjoy it.
Senator, what was your takeaway from today? What was the best thing you saw happen today? What are you most concerned about what you saw happen on these crossover bills?
Well, the best thing maybe is that we passed the child welfare reform bill. It was the governor's bill, had bipartisan support, and it's an important bill. We're glad to move it over. One of the worst things that happened is when right out of the gate, we had a bill that was about a local legislation dealing with cityhood, and the Republican senator from DeKalb County, the lone Republican from DeKalb, moved to table the bill. The Republicans didn't allow any debate, didn't allow a discussion of the issue, and that was very frustrating to see that continue to happen in these days and times that we can't even get a fair hearing on a bill.
How are you feeling as you watch all of these cityhood bills moving forward down there this year? There's a lot of people who are concerned that when you start carving up DeKalb County especially, that you're taking, you're starting to put people, the wealthy in one category, the poor residents of the county in another, that there's racial implications. What's your take on all this?
Well, everything you said is true. I mean, we see racial implications in it. We see costs in the county that's still going to have to provide a lot of our services. There's a lot of half-truths being told to people in the communities about, how it will affect their taxes long term. Often people think, well, maybe they say my city won't raise taxes for me. They're not told, on the other hand, that to create the city, they're taking in numerous funds from the county, and later they're going to have to raise taxes if they want to do the other 80% of things they do. So it's very disconcerting that this is all coming from different areas, and there's still a lot of contention that we haven't been able to work out on a local level. In the old days, these were local bills, and now they're being voted on statewide.
I want one last quick question. We're close out of time, but I want to ask you this. Okay, day 30 in the Senate is over. What's your biggest priority as you move forward with 10 days left as the Democratic leader of the Senate?
Oh, my biggest priority is try to see that we have a transportation bill that's going to help all of Georgia, going to be effective in the long term, going to make sure that we include transit and include everybody in the participation of the decision making on how that bill is developed. And right now, that's not being done.
All right, Senator Steve Henson, thank you so much for being with us tonight. We look forward to watching you these next 10 days.
Thank you so much.
Leo and Howard, you mentioned the transportation initiative. It's now in the Senate. It's passed the House, and it's in the hands of Senator Tommy Williams, who's the head of the Transportation Committee. Next week, he is going to unveil their funding formula. He's not convinced that this House has given him the only funding formula. Are we getting to a point where there might be some concern whether these two sides are going to be able to reconcile how they raise this $1 billion plus?
Well, I think that's going to be a very robust debate, but they have to do something that satisfies all constituents. We've been through that process where folks were worried about the different ways that we were trying to generate revenue in order to pay for these things. I think that what we experienced last month with the debate with the Grover Norcrest interests and those things being debated about, and us passing on costs to the local counties for them to make decisions on it, I don't think that's settled in people's mind, and they still want that to be rectified.
Howard, one of the things Senator Williams has said is he's not convinced that we need this 29-cent excise tax. He'd like to maybe lower that and then come up with some other fees of some sort, user fees, to make up the difference, still get to $1 billion, including the possibility of increasing the cigarette tax.
I hadn't heard as much about the cigarette tax. I know there's some conversation about it during some of the House testimony. And what I will say, though, is from the conversations we've been a part of, the committee hearings, a lot of the ideas that have been floated have really tied these monies to things that are around driving. So we've talked about, adding or assessing additional fees to rental cars, other things that directly relate to folks who are using the road, which to me makes some sense.
And part of the reason for this is to protect legislators from being accused of raising taxes, right?
I
This
think
is
we've
political
gotten-
dynamite.
I think we've kind of gotten past that. I mean, I think that there were some machinations at the end of last week when we looked at the House version, and there was efforts to amend the bill to drop down the excise tax to make it nearly revenue neutral. And I think, for what we're talking about doing, structural efficiency or deficiency potential of bridges, roads, things that, Georgians need to feel safe.
All right, well, we'll see, because the Senate hasn't had to weigh in about
That's
this
true.
tax hike, and they're a much more, somewhat more conservative body. So we'll watch it very closely. Representative Alan Peake is now at our Capitol camera. And Representative Peake, it seems to me that you had a pretty interesting day over on the Senate today when the Senate bill does call for only one condition, seizure disorder, and to put it into a trial of some sort. But Renee Unterman took to the well, as you well know, and sounded as if she's ready to work to try to make sure that you get more conditions than just that one. Is that how you're feeling tonight?
Yes, I'm actually encouraged by the activities of today. The Senate showed a lot of compassion in recognizing that there's a need for immunity for possession and immunity from prosecution for possession of cannabis oil. So that's a big step. It's only for kids with seizures, and as compared to HB1, has 9 medical conditions and is a lot more inclusive. So, but I think we took a big step today in the Senate, and I'm looking forward to trying to come out with a solution that works, and hopefully we can get something done here in the next couple of weeks.
So what's your guess on this? Do you find a way to merge the bills? Does this end up in conference committee? Is one way of handling this more favorable to you than another? How do you look at that?
Well, I can tell you this. I would agree to a bill that includes HB1, the 9 conditions, the THC level that we have discussed, the structure that we have set up in HB1, and take all of the clinical trial language that was in the original SB 185, Lindsey Tippin's bill, and put the two together. And if the Senate would agree to that, I think that's something, in fact, I will propose that in the committee hearing next Thursday. And then we have a true merger of the two bills. We have a structure that brings our medical refugees home. We have a structure that provides access and protection for cancer patients, ALS patients, MS patients. And we get this thing to the governor so we can start bringing our medical refugees back home.
You know, there was a lot of talk among analysts and some commentators like me that the autism bill that Renee Unterman had passed in the Senate and your bill were going to hold each other hostage. It appears that if that ever was a possibility, it's less likely to be happening today, yes?
I don't see that happening. I don't. I've got no indication that that's the case. I've had very good conversations with Lieutenant Governor Casey Cagle, who I believe is supportive of finding a solution that works for the most amount of citizens, and particularly bringing these medical refugees home. Senator Unterman has given every indication she wants to work with the House to come up with a good compromise bill. So I'm actually very encouraged after today. I'm grateful to the Senate for taking a big step forward, and I'm confident we're going to be able to get something done here in the next week or two.
All right, how are you holding up down there? You're still in session. How late are you going to go tonight?
Well, I'm ready to go home. We maybe have about 8 or 9 more bills, but I think we'll be out here in the next hour or two.
All right, Representative Alan Peake, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thanks, Bill. Good to see you.
You too. We have more bills to track tonight as crossover countdown continues. We'll be back with updates and live reports from the Gold Dome as Lawmakers continues.
The world was watching when the U.S. Navy SEALs took down Osama bin Laden. But few know the true story of these clandestine warriors.
If you could be part of a team, wouldn't you want to be a part of the very best in the entire world?
Navy SEALs, their untold story.
Tuesday at 8 on GPB.
This is the Al-Qaeda that Osama bin Laden only dreamed of.
The intelligence continued to point to what could happen.
The view was this is Iraq's problem, let them deal with it.
The growth of ISIS was noted and the deterioration of the Iraqi forces was missed.
If you threaten America, you will find no safe haven.
Tuesday at 10 on GPB.
We had
less than 24 hours to evacuate.
There was a sea of people wanting to get out.
It was a terrible moral dilemma. Who goes and who gets left behind?
They looked up at the helicopters and I could see their eyes. Desperate eyes.
Welcome back to Lawmakers and our crossover day coverage. Still with me tonight, Howard Franklin, a Democratic strategist and the editor of the 10 by 10 political blog, and Leo Smith with the Georgia Republican Party. Let's, Leo and Howard, go right down to the Capitol again, because Minority Leader, Representative Stacey Abrams in the House, is with us down there. Thanks for joining us, Representative Abrams.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Let me start by just asking you a very broad question. What happened in the House today in this flurry of activity that you're happy about, and what happened today that you're not quite as pleased about?
Well, I'm very pleased that we had a number of bills that crossed over today, including HB 230, which was a bill to streamline the process of how we provide compensation to those who've been exonerated and proven innocent in our court system, but who've been held in our court system, who've been held in our jails. Representative Carolyn Hughley has been moving this issue for several years, and we were very pleased to see it get out. Other than that, actually, today has been, I think, a really fruitful day. Very few contentious issues, and I think a lot of good work done on both sides of the aisle.
Okay, I apologize for interrupting. So let's look beyond crossover day. You've got 10 days left after this. As Minority Leader in the House, what's your agenda? What are you going to work at hardest in the 10 days left that you'd like to try to get accomplished?
Well, as leader, of course, it's my job to make sure that the bills that we have successfully gotten out of the House and to the Senate, that those actually finally make it to the governor's desk. Personally, though, I'm working on H.R. 474, which is a resolution to create a study committee to look at the issue of grandparents and other kin raising children. That is a very important issue in our society. In the state of Georgia, more than 100,000 grandparents currently have custody of their children, and those are just the ones we know about. And we need to make certain that our services are aligned to the needs of those families.
How's that bill looking for you right now?
I was very pleased to have co-signers of Representative Matt Ramsey, the House Majority Whip, and Speaker Pro Tem Jan Jones, as well as Carolyn Hughley. We're sitting in rules, and hopefully I'll come out next week.
I apologize because I don't know the answer to this, and you may. We've been watching the early voting bill, the voting bill that would limit the number of early voting days to 12 days and also make Sunday voting an option or a Saturday, perhaps. Do you happen to know where that bill stands? I don't know that that's passed yet in the House.
It's still sitting in rules.
And do you think it's stuck in rules and not likely to come out?
I am hopeful that it will remain in rules for this year, and we will take it up next year if we're going to have to take it up. But I'm very pleased that it did not move out yet. Of course, until the Speaker gavels us out, it's always possible.
All right. Stacey Abrams, thank you so much for spending time with us tonight. I know you got to run back in and watch the activity on the floor.
Thank you.
So, Leo and Howard, let's talk about that measure, the early voting bill, which, as Stacey Abrams said, we've been watching to see if it was going to get on a supplemental rules calendar. It hasn't, as she pointed out. So I guess, Howard, you would say that this is a victory for those who think limiting early voting days.
It's a bad thing for democracy, yes. I mean, I think more importantly, it seems very reactionary to sort of some of the innovation and creativity of putting these Sunday votes on the ballots in some of the counties in this last statewide election. I think we need to give it a little more time before we start restricting the amount of time folks have.
The counter argument, Leo, is that the long early voting period in many smaller jurisdictions, in smaller counties, where very few people do come to the polls, nevertheless, the counties have to pay for all the mechanism to have personnel standing by. And is that a real concern that we ought to be looking at here?
Well, I think in smaller communities, it is a real concern, and then they have to be concerned that they have a smaller revenue base, and so therefore they don't have as much money to pay for some of the things that some of our larger counties have that they can afford to pay for. So that is a real concern.
But most of these are in county buildings, city buildings that are already open and are already staffed. Sometimes are staffed by volunteers, sometimes paid poll workers, but not a huge financial burden of most of the communities that I've heard about.
Well, they've got to be properly staffed.
Sure.
And so if you have a rec center front desk person who isn't trained on how to deal with voting issues, I mean, obviously that's going to be a cost as it relates to that. So we have to be sensitive to that. And the other thing is about the intent. I mean, yeah, certainly it would seem that a longer period of time for voting would allow more people to vote. But you could also argue that having a compact period of time where there's more intensity about it gives you more time to really market to people.
All right, let me go downtown again. Senator Tommy Williams, the chair of the Transportation Committee, is standing by. Senator Williams, all eyes are on you, because next week you're going to let us know what your plan is for finding the money for the transportation bill that may be different than what's been brought over to you from the House, yes?
Right.
Can you hear me, Senator?
I can.
Are you going to be unveiling a different funding proposal for the transportation bill next week?
We are. We have a committee meeting on Tuesday. We hope to pass out a bill that day. We're shopping the bill to our members now. Just a few fundamentals. We want to make sure we've looked at our own budget to commit some of our current budget and future budgets to transportation. They've kind of been overlooked from at least the state revenue side. We're also going to look at motor fuel. Probably not go where the House has gone there, but then some other transportation-related savings that we could find, and perhaps some increases on things like rental cars. But anyway, we've got some pretty good ideas coming together that. And then the main thing is we want to make sure if we give more money to DOT that's spent appropriately.
Senator, there are many people who they know that you're going to look at a few other vehicles for funding this, but there seems to be general belief that one way or the other, a bill is going to come out of there with a funding formula that will raise $1 billion or more. Do you agree with that?
Yes, that's our goal.
All right, Senator Williams, we're short on time, but I do appreciate your staying with us. Thanks for being here tonight.
Nice to be with you,
We
Bill.
look forward to seeing you next week on that issue.
My pleasure.
Leo and Howard, that does seem to be the consensus, doesn't it?
I would hope so. But
the governor says we need the money. The speaker says it. The lieutenant governor. They may find different ways to come up with it, and they may have to make some compromises. But we're going to see a $1 billion plus funding bill.
And I think for the first time in a long time, you've got Republicans in leadership saying wonderful things, positive things about MARTA and transportation. So I think that's.
Are some Republicans, are some of the members of your party in the legislature going to pay a price for voting for HB 170, the funding bill, and be accused of raising taxes and therefore find primary opposition?
Well, there's always prices to be paid in politics. And so I think that everybody weighs that risk. But I think right now that you see a spirit of let's get some things done. And I think they're going to actually pay a larger price if they don't get things done. And so I think everyone's keeping that in mind. And that's why you see a lot of kumbaya going on right now.
The Speaker of the House said to me the other day that he will be out campaigning as he always does for his members. I asked if he might put a little extra spin behind those members who maybe took a risk by voting for the bill. He said, well, I work hard for all of them, but it looks like he's going to work a little hard for those, a little harder for those, right?
I would expect so, yes.
All right. Well, Howard Franklin, it's always a pleasure to have you here, Leo Smith. Howard, we will read you on your blog,
Georgia10by10.com.
Georgia10by10.com, a daily look at the top 10 issues in Georgia politics. Leo Smith, we always enjoy having you here, and we'll see you again soon. So that's it. We have wrapped up our crossover day coverage. The Senate adjourned about an hour ago. The House is continuing to work. You heard Stacey Abrams or Alan Peake say they had 9 or 10 bills left to go. So we could imagine that it's going to be maybe 10 o'clock tonight before they get out. But crossover day is basically about to be history. Lawmakers won't be back in session again until next Wednesday, March 18th. We'll be back to start counting down the last 10 days of the 2015 session. In the meantime, you can stay in touch with us on social media, or you can email us at lawmakers@gpb.org. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm Bill Nigut. Have a great evening and a really good weekend.
This is a GPB original production.